Welcome to the Daily Edge. Steve, Jake, Mark, we are the Noodlebergs. Let's find our edge, and that always starts with our affirmation. I embrace open, honest, and constructive conversations because growth happens in the tough but necessary discussions.
Oh boy,
that's a mic drop because
starting it out.
You have to address
those are fighting words.
Well, you have to address the reality of difficult conversations are difficult. They're hard. They're not easy.
And they're there for a reason. They're meant to be.
Well, we're not animals. We're really emotional beings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And our emotions are curated over years of different experiences, which makes it really hard to have conversations because there are biases, there are beliefs. And I know as a company and as a family, we get into them pretty regularly.
Well, so you brought up an important point because I think it's important to talk about the dynamics of difficult conversations, right? Like spouse to spouse, certain dynamic, right? Father, son,
right?
Brother, different dynamics. Boss to employee, right? Or leader to teammate,
employee up.
Same, or son to father, right? Or like, so there's all kinds of different dynamics at play when we talk about having a difficult conversation. And I will tell you through my experience through life, nobody taught me how to communicate properly. Nobody was like, oh, this is how you're supposed to have.
There's not a course on it, that's for sure.
But there are people who teach, like I will tell you, Chris Voss's negotiation book, #1, Never Split the Difference. Mm-hmm. That is a masterclass on how to communicate, right? Because negotiation is a part of communication, but understanding how to check your emotions, right? Because part of Jocko Willink's book, right, Extreme Ownership, part of what he says to do is detach, right? Detach and prioritize. That's the first step in making a decision and moving forward, which I think when you get to a difficult conversation, there's immediately emotion involved.
Well, when you start out saying it's a difficult conversation, that instantly makes it adversarial. People are fearful when they're attacked.
Right.
So in that mode,
the defensiveness goes up.
Whoop, the walls go up. Oh my God, how can you be saying or doing this? And so, training yourself to detach from the emotion of, let me just hear it. Let me marinate. Mel Robbins did a great job in her first book, the 5-second rule. Let me
give yourself 5 seconds.
3, 2, 1. Your response mechanism will be different when you give it space.
Well, I think if you talk about social media too, it's so instant that people are giving feedbacks and opinions with little regard for the consequences that come from it. And it's not face-to-face conversations. And so the further we get away from face-to-face conversations, the less that muscle is developed to have them constructively, not to attack or not to go after somebody, but to push two different people forward to a common goal or an understanding.
And social media is not trying to teach us how to have constructive conversations. They're actually trying to teach us to be more triggered.
Correct.
Right? Like social media is looking to, like, look at our titles. Look at how we try to get people to get you. You want to get the thing that catches somebody. You want to get this thing that triggers somebody, that gets them to click on it, that makes them feel emotional, and then gets them to respond. So let's talk about this for a minute so people could really digest it, because we've had to have difficult conversations, right? Almost on a regular basis. There's a topic that comes up that could be triggering for any one of the three of us. And it becomes everybody's responsibility to be able to navigate that. I think it's important that when you enter into a difficult conversation, you address it straight away. Like, hey, this is going to be difficult for you to hear, right? Let that person know, right? I'm not trying to make you defensive. I'm not saying, hey, I don't want to sound disrespectful, because as soon as I say I don't want to sound disrespectful, in your head you go, you're going to be disrespectful.
I don't mean to be an asshole, but I'm going to say what.
Right, but if I say to you,
no disrespect.
But if I say to you the other way, hey, this may sound disrespectful, right? Oh, okay. Now I'm making you alert to it, and I'm addressing that this is difficult. Hey, this is going to be a hard conversation.
But, we talked about the different relationships. That coming from a leader makes sense,
Yep.
But if you're a subordinate, you can't look up and go, what I'm about to say might sound disrespectful. I think you have to approach it a little bit differently, no?
I don't think so.
Really?
I really don't. See, like, I would prefer, as my little brother, I would prefer you say to me, hey, I'm going to say something that's going to rub you the wrong way. Like, I would prefer you say that to me than go, hey, this is going to be, you know, I'm not trying to be rude here.
I like it. Yeah.
Right. Like,
I mean, I've always come
fucking
from.
Tell me what it is, bro. You know,
but that's us, right? And
I've always come from radical candor.
Yep.
And I want to be absolutely candid with you. This is what I'm experiencing from your behavior or whatever. That has never steered me wrong. Where I got better was the tone in which I delivered it. If you deliver it as an asshole, right, people are going to receive it. It's coming from an asshole. But if you have empathy and you say what you said, this is going to be really hard for you to hear, but I need you to hear it.
Yep.
And it's called what? Tactical empathy, I think.
So that comes from the listening part of it on the other side, which I think like there was a great post from Adam Grant, right, who says people who can't handle criticism are unfit to lead. Weak leaders fear dissent as a threat to their power. They silence their critics to shield their egos. Strong leaders welcome dissent as an opportunity for growth. If you're not trying to hear, you're dead. Forget it. There's no opportunity for growth. Or
go live in the woods.
I got a great story. I got a great story. You know, early in my speaking career, I get invited to John DeJulius's Customer Service Revolution to speak in Cleveland. That's where I met Mel Robbins. Anyway, I get on stage. I think I did amazing, got unbelievable feedback. And then before I left Cleveland, he said, once I digest, I'm going to go through and give you some feedback. You know, I'm expecting him to call and tell me, you know, tickle me a little bit.
A pat on
You're
the back.
Best. You're incredible. Everybody loves you, you know. Well, he did not deliver that report to me. And my first reaction was, who the fuck is this guy? You know?
Right.
And then I realized that what he did was hard for him to do. He took the time and the energy. He made me a better speaker that has still transferred to my skill sets today. And that was the only way I can grow.
Because you were willing to hear it.
Well, I had to train myself to be willing to hear it and let my ego deflate and go, this isn't about anything other than helping me get better. Like really pull myself out of it. It was a great ultimate experience. But I will tell you, I felt like he ripped my tonsils out.
So there's a point in there where you're saying, okay, what he didn't prepare you, so like he didn't go, hey,
no,
this is going to be difficult for you to hear,
that
or
would have
hey,
been helpful,
right? It would have been helpful. Right,
yeah.
It would have set the standard. But then he gave it to you, and then it became your responsibility to not fight it or to recognize that emotional reaction. Which I don't care if you are in the speaker or the listener seat. At some point in the conversation, something's going to jab you.
Yeah.
Something's going to twist that knife a little bit. If you're having a real conversation, and it becomes your responsibility, not somebody else's. Mm-hmm. It's not their responsibility to change their tone. It's not their responsibility. It's just your responsibility to control how you respond in order to try to have a constructive conversation, period. It's not the other person's responsibility.
So I think you talk about expectations. The expectation could have been better. I expected him to, you know, tickle me a little bit. He didn't. I got the message, but almost in everything you do in life, you're going to get feedback whether you like it or not. You and I just spoke. We're on the same stage. They're sending out a survey to the 150 people that were there. I don't expect everybody to, you know, have a great comment.
I prefer not, actually. Like, because it's great to get positive feedback and know that you're doing the right thing, but there's no growth in that, right? Like, as football coaches, we knew on Sundays, the worst Sundays were after wins, because it was the hardest time to really get people to buy into they did something wrong, because the winning hides the mistakes.
Even though we won. Right. That's not, we made some mistakes. We got out of there with
You made plenty of mistakes. And if you choose to get better from making mistakes in a win, you're going to be significantly better than anybody else who only finds the lessons in the losses.
It's the same thing for people when it comes to like health. You know, like someone was just telling me a story that they found out that they have a blockage in their heart. And she said to me, I wish I didn't know. And I went, excuse me?
What? Yeah, right.
Well, now
How
I
does
have
that
to
mean?
like take action.
Right.
And like, that's what, like,
Wow.
we go to like
Oh.
like
Ignorance is
self-awareness.
bliss.
Ignorance is
Responsibility.
fucking bliss, right? Like if I don't know, then I really can just live in this state where I don't have to take action. I'm kind of doing okay. And so people live in this state where they say they're self-aware, but like being self-aware without taking action for what you know about yourself is a cop-out.
By the way, one of the relationships, I can speak to is being a parent. It's hard to have difficult conversations. I'm not your friend.
Right.
I'm your parent. I'm supposed to have difficult conversations with you. But to your point, when they're delivered with, hey, this is going to be hard for you to hear, and we've had those conversations.
Yeah.
We've had those
I
conversations.
threw you out of my house.
Both
Yeah, right,
ways.
yeah.
But both ways,
You threw
right?
both of us out.
I threw both
Well,
of
so
you.
and let's not act like our examples in the past have been great examples of
No.
how to have. Now we got through the emotion, we got through it, and got to a place where we could have those conversations. But like Sammy Kershaw has a great song, right? Politics, religion, and her. Like, don't talk about those three things.
That's a great song.
And I was raised, right? You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about religion, which is ridiculous.
Like the first date. Like don't
It's a ridiculous thing to say. Why? Because you're emotional about it,
Right.
and because it's something that you believe in. We shouldn't talk about it. No, that creates problems. If you're gonna have a really good conversation, you got to be willing to listen. Which, if you look at the Zelensky-Trump conversation, that is an awful portrayal of how to have a difficult conversation.
I don't think either of them actually wanted to have the conversation is the problem,
Right.
right?
And then there's cameras there.
And
There's
cameras, and then you're just jabbing at each other both ways. It's
so what you saw
on what not to do.
So what was depicted there for everybody was everybody trying to speak and nobody trying to listen. Everybody just wanted to say what they needed to say. Everybody just wanted to get their soundbite out. There was no conversation being had. There was more of a debate going on, which is I'm going to speak my side, you're going to speak your side, which leads to absolutely no compromise.
Further the other way.
So let me ask you guys this. So when we define it in a business sense, there has to be some level of trust and respect.
Bingo. The foundation of all conversation.
Like if you don't trust me, then everything comes out of your mouth.
If I don't think you're out to look for me, you can go fuck off, honestly.
Exactly. So and I would say this to people, I don't care if you love me, like me, but I do need you to respect me. Because then I can do my job. And there are people today that worked for me back in the day that would tell you I was a prick back then, but I always held them and them getting better as the number one.
Which I would tell you, like, you don't, and I say this all the time, you don't have to be an asshole to hold people accountable.
I had to learn
And
that.
just because you hold people accountable doesn't make you an asshole. And 99% of people view it from those two things, right? It's like, oh, you're holding me accountable, you're an asshole.
Right.
And oh, I need to hold somebody accountable, so I have to be an asshole.
wow.
And now you're micromanaging me, and now you don't trust me, and it leads down to.
It's just all it really is your perception of the situation. And so, if I can rely on trust, which the only way I'm going to build trust with you is if you feel like I know you. If I put in the work to have a true relationship with you in knowing why you're here, what you're trying to accomplish, what matters to you, right? Like not a whole bunch of complicated stuff. We just got to know each other enough, right? In order to then be consistent. Because if I'm consistent and I know you, you're going to trust me.
So you talk about earning the right all the time. And I love this because you earn the right to talk about politics and about, religion and all that stuff because you've already built the foundation. The challenge is when you just fly in with like, whoa,
let me tell you,
and
let me tell you.
And I don't know if you guys will agree with this, and this is a bit of a current state situation. But do you feel that people aren't looking for the other person to earn the trust, but actually looking for them to break it? If that makes sense, in the sense of they're waiting for you to say something wrong instead of saying, oh, everything you're doing is building credibility with me. They're looking for a way like, oh, I knew it was coming. Like they're almost waiting to feel offended, or I knew you were going to do that, or they're so cynical when it comes to these relationships and these conversations.
And that's a byproduct of social media.
1000%.
Social media and the leadership of just in general, the country and the world of what's happened. But and that's why I think sports are so important in today's world, because sports is where you really learn to trust somebody else, to communicate with somebody else, to be bought into a common goal and have to just do whatever it is that you're responsible for doing and do your best. Like, you can start learning that at 3 years old. And the people who don't learn that lesson are the people who get into corporate jobs and they got no idea how to receive feedback. They got no idea how to communicate. They got no idea how to work with leadership. Well, they're lost.
Do you take it personal or do you take it as constructive and this is growing the business?
All personal.
I mean, it's
right.
It's all personal. It's hard. That's the challenge, is how do I not internalize it and say you're attacking me?
You have to own the fact that someone might know more than you.
Okay. Well, so here,
always.
let me I want to address that exact comment though, because that's on the leader, right?
Yeah.
Because if I attack you as a human instead of attacking your behavior, those are two different things. Saying that you're not good enough is different than saying what you're doing right now doesn't meet our standard. Those are two drastically different statements. And when you tell somebody you're not good enough, you're attacking them. What do you want them to do?
That's cutting their legs out.
Right.
Them,
you don't want them to respond defensively to that, as opposed to saying, hey, I've been watching what you're doing over the past few weeks, and it doesn't meet our standard.
I can tell you where old school and new school really meet now is, like, I grew up in an environment where feedback was delivered with hostility.
Right.
You know, it was like,
and you were doing something
you
wrong.
know, you were yelling at me like, whoa,
why are you so mad?
Like, you know, so if that's been a learning in my career, is that constructive feedback doesn't need to be angry.
Adversarial,
right? It's much more collaborative, and that's what dictates culture. I'm going to speak today about teamwork. Teamwork is about a safe place to hear that stuff.
But I love your generation, and they love to do it. Everybody got soft. They all got soft. Yes. And then you ask them, did you like that when somebody spoke to you like that? No, I fucking hated it, but it made me stronger. But like, there are better ways.
There is a balance, though, right? There is a balance, because I feel like you said it on one of the other episodes. You were like, we over-indexed one way. And it feels like that's just what we do as human beings. Like, we find a problem and then it's like, oh my God, we have to run the exact opposite way of that instead of just moving a little bit further away from it, right? Like, how about a slight shift away from that and not an absolute about face the other way to it? So I think that's really the communication aspect of it is, yeah, sure, you still need to be tough. Right? Because you know what? Not everybody's perfect. And not everybody's going to have the perfect feedback for you. Not everybody's going to have the perfect, difficult conversation, which I would say kudos to us, because even when we don't have the perfect conversation, when emotions run high and things start to happen, we have the ability to come back from that. That's toughness.
Emotional intelligence.
That's grit.
Too.
That's grit.
It's grace too.
It ain't grace. Oh my God, it's even better, right? Because we're willing to allow it. Right. So good.
Whatever's going on in
your life. And we're not
Right.
saying to suppress all emotions, right? That's impractical, right?
No, you have to learn how to navigate them.
Right, and use them in the right way.
And these are real
But
life
I think
situations.
even now, today in the world, with everything going on, whether it's, Trump and Zelensky and everything Trump is doing, or everything that's happening with DEI, or anything that happens in the sports world, or anything that might overtake your office, it's important to have conversations.
You have to talk about it.
You can't. I love the companies that are like, we're just not going to talk about it, and we're just going to kind of get through it and not address it. And I think that is the ultimate disrespect to everybody involved.
For failure.
Disrespect to, like, the real world is in your face, and everybody's talking about it at the dinner table and at dinner with friends. Why not at work?
But here's the number one difficult conversation that every single organization avoids. They're high performers and asshole. Yeah. Every single organization, team, business, I don't care. They avoid the conversation of their best player is an asshole.
But they might be an asshole. It's very possible.
No. And they don't want to talk about it, though. That's a really good player. We can't talk about it. We got to. And because that's the case, at some point, that asshole cost them a game, cost them the business, is wreaking havoc around the rest of the team.
Stopping other people from being great, which is really what the case is. So this idea of this emotional training about how to receive feedback, how to give feedback, I think is so critical to team. Nick Saban did a great job because he didn't police it.
Yep.
Everybody else policed it with each other. He said it. He set the standard and said, here's how we're going to operate. Here's how we're going to communicate. I mean, he yelled.
He was never perfect. He yelled all the time, right?
Wow.
And that's a part of whatever. That was part of it's part of who he was as a human being.
Right.
And he wasn't perfect. was that the only way he communicated? No, of course not. So I think like some simple takeaways for today is, number one, speak directly, right? You said radical candor. Speak clearly and transparently to people and let them know what the intention is. Create some disconnection from your emotion and the response, right? Give yourself some time to not react to whatever's being said, but truly respond to it, and seek to understand, not seek to teach. Right? Like if you seek to listen and understand the other side and not just get your point across, those are some basic fundamentals that can help you communicate
feels
better.
like the edge to me.
Right.
Yeah, no, to me, it's the difference between, just telling them and getting them to understand.
Yep.
And I know you do that in all your leadership training, is really guiding them to the problem.
Bingo.
Now, how would you feel about this? Or if this was done this way, what would that make you feel? And kind of getting them to open their eyes and go, oh, got it. Right. And it's that I got you moment where it's not you came down on me. You almost opened my eyes to something that led me to be better, which then builds that trust.
Bingo. Great edge for today. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share it with a friend. And if you are looking for more ways to get better, go to ontheball.co. We'll see you next time.